Hey guys, welcome to this video where I'm going to show you how you can build a calculator using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this is a project, beginner friendly, where you can just learn how to associate these three languages to build a simple project like that. So in this calculator, you can perform basic operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. And you can remove numbers, you can reset the calculator, and yeah, that's it. So I'm going to show you how you can do this, and without further ado, let's get into it. Of course, the first thing we need is a folder. So let's create the calculator folder, calculator, and we can open it with our Visual Studio Code. Right, and we create our three files, so index.html, which is our HTML. So let's just use here the exclamation mark to have our boilerplate. Let's name it calculator. For the title, we need to have a style sheet, so styles.css, right? And we'll have our index.js, so we say index.js, right? So now we have our three files. We can link our index.js, so down here, so by saying script, and so src, which is index.js, like this, right? So let's link our style sheet by saying here, so style sheet, and we can have the href, which is the style.css. Okay, so now we have our three files together. Let's now create the body of our calculator. So for that, we need to have a calculator container div, right? And within that one, we have a calculator display, so ID. So we can have display, and another one, so buttons. Okay, so we need to have our top buttons, and these top buttons will have so a class of button. So button, we have C, and we can have the delete. We can have del, like this. So let's put our other buttons here. So we'll start with 7. Let's just have 8, 9. The division for the first row, 5. Oh, it's 4, 5, 6. The multiplication for the second row. So we can just use the wildcard here. And the last row, 1, 2. Let's space again. We have 3 again. So we have minus, okay, and we have 0, the dot for the decimals, and we have the equal sign here, and lastly we have the plus sign. So these are our buttons for our calculator. Okay, now let's give this equal button. So on ID, say equal btn for tagging purposes. So we have it for the buttons, right? And now let's style it with our CSS. So we have our body here, So the font family, we need to take it from Google. I'm using a font family called Orbitron. So let's look at it at Google Fonts. So this is the Orbitron font. It's kind of like uh, a font that's cool for numbers, and you can use it. So just head over to Google Fonts and search for Orbitron, or you can have any other font you want. So I'm going to select this font. Let's just take this one and the bold one. Let's look at the import. So copy this. So it should be before this, the body style. And we can use the font family. Yeah, that's it. We can have now our calculator container. So the mark width, say min. So it takes the minimum between 400 pixels or just 80%. That's a way to just make it responsive on smaller screens. The background color, so I choose this one, so 39 3 E41, kind of dark gray. So margin 0 auto, and margin top you can say 30 pixels, padding 35 pixels, and the border radius is 30 pixels. Okay, that's for the container. So now we have the display, so which is this one. You can just say display. So text align, you want it to be on the right side. Say height is 70 pixels. The same for the line height, 70 pixels. The padding, you say 16 pixels, 8 pixels. The font size, so we'll take the maximum between 30 pixels and 10%. And the background color, so F6, F7, EB. Okay. Border radius is 10 pixels. Say margin bottom, 40 pixels. And the same color here. So we can just say color, this one. Now for the buttons, so the buttons container. For the display, let's make it a grid display with the grid template columns. So we'll use the repeat function to just make columns, so 4 columns of 90 pixels. Okay, and let's put some gap between the grids. So we say gap 15 pixels. Okay. Now let's look at the result. We can just come now, right? So we have something. We have our buttons here. We have our display. Let's style the button. We have the top buttons. Let's say top buttons. We can use the grid column. So 1.5. Let's say make it display of grid. And grid template column. So repeat again for 90 pixels. And the gap is 15 pixels. Okay, now each button, let's make it white, color white, text align, say center. Font size is 40 pixels. Font weight is bold. And the cursor is a pointer. Background color, we can say gray. Okay. And the height is 60 pixels. Okay. Should be actually just button for each one of these. Let's remove the S, move here and here. All right, so now we have our buttons. We will finish with button ends of type, because we want to style. So for n plus 5, we want to style these ones, okay, these operators. We can say background color. Let's just choose an orange one, so F9 77 57 and 38. You could have as well, right, if this is difficult or if this is new to you. So I could just, let's say, use a class like an operator class and attach it to, let's actually make it like that so it's easier. Operator, just say operator. One is not an operator, right? So let's remove it from this one, add it here, and we have the subtraction and the division. We have the division. Yeah, it's added. 1 2 3, and this the plus sign. It's the same, but let's just make it operator here. So operator, we have the same result. We say here equal btn, the background color. So let's say 56 EEF4. And the color is black. Okay. So now we have our buttons, right? The last thing is the JavaScript. So let's use the JavaScript here. So for the JavaScript, we need to have first the display. So which is a document query selector, and we will select the display. Next, we'll have our buttons, which is an array from, and we'll say document query selector all. We'll select, so query selector all and button. So we will have here a button, so all our buttons for each, and for each button, so we'll have a button add event listener. So we listen for a click. So every time we click the button, something should happen depending on the button content. So we say const button txt equals e target value, and we'll use the switch now. So it's like an if condition, but we can use, because the only condition that will change is the button text, and we say case. So if it is a delete, we can just say if display inner text. So if we have something, we'll remove it. So display inner text. So we will remove the last item by saying display inner text slice, use a slice to slice the last item. So -1. Okay. So we'll say break and we go to the next one. If it is C, it means I just want to remove everything. So inner text like this. Let's break. Now case, the case we want to calculate something by pressing the equal sign. So we'll say try catch. So try and catch with some E. What do you try? You try to calculate the result by saying const result equals eval. So eval is going to evaluate whatever is in our calculator. So display that inner text. And we can say result. So we say display inner text equals the result. And catch, so we'll catch if there is some error. We say display inner text equals e.message. Right. So let's see now. Yeah. And we have, of course, let's add the default. Of course, let's break this. And the default is just adding or showing the number. So default. Here we have case. Add the default. So by default, we say display that inner text. So we add e target inner text. Right. So now, as you can see, we can just write whatever we want here. When we hit del, okay, it doesn't work. Let's see why. Actually, it should be inner text here. So now let's try again. Right. So it's calculating it. If I say del, it's removing it. If I say this C, it should just remove everything. Right. So that should be it for this one. So we can add more things like limiting how many items, let's say, we want in your calculator so that it doesn't overflow. And for that, we can say here, if right display inner text at length less than 16. So we do something. Okay, so it doesn't, it can only take 16 items. All right. So the last thing is to actually just allow, let's say, 16 items, right, for whatever number we have. So we can just say here string, make it a string, the result, and we use the substring function. So substring and from, say, from 0 to 16, right? That way we'll only allow uh, these 16 numbers, okay, as you can see. So can just multiply 6 and so on. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.